So if what you said is in the Torah also, how come you don't ever see it throughout all of history? You never seen a grown man marry a 3-year-old person. How come? Sanhedrin, page 55b, a Jew may marry a 3-year-old. What? A Jew may marry a 3-year-old? Maybe you think that, but that's not what it says. That's not what it says. What you said is not what you read in the Gemara. What you said is what you read on some podcast or some internet thread that hates Jews. If you actually read the Gemara, then you will see that it does not say that a Jew that's can marry a 3-year-old, an adult can marry a 3-year-old, because the Chachamim rebuked anyone that marries a minor, certainly anyone that marries a woman that doesn't want to marry him and fools somebody into doing it, and needless to say, anyone that is procreates with somebody that's a minor. That's completely forbidden according to the Torah. But what the Gemara did say is that a woman is born with what's called a hymen. Okay, so if a man is commits an intimate act with a woman that is an adult, that's if it's the first time, that hymen is broken. It's considered biyah. It's considered an act of intimacy, meaning it's considered a full act of intimacy, even though she has never done it before. This is the first time, but it's as long as that breakage makes, it's considered a full act of intimacy. If it doesn't break, then it's not considered a full act of intimacy. So then the Gemara asks, what about if she is young? And it's not fully formed, she's not fully mature. And the Gemara elaborates and says simple, if she's 3 years old or older, then it's fully formed, and whatever act is made, it's considered as if it's full intimacy. Not that it's allowed, not that it should be done, but in essence, once that hymen is broken after the age of 3 years old, it'll never repair. On the other hand, if there's obviously an act of pedophilia, forbidden act, but an act where it's a child that's less than 3 years old, even by a single day, the Chachamim testify and say that the hymen that was broken will repair itself to the point where it's as if it was never broken. It was never broken. So that's what it actually says. If you actually ever wisen up and stop being anti-Semitic and a complete imbecile that likes to embarrass himself in public, then you would read the Gemara and you would see that this is exactly what it says. But so long as people try to read books that are anti-Semitic and simply assume they understand what the Talmud says, what the Gemara says, then obviously they're just going to be, shown as fools, just like this moron was made to make somebody think that Jewish people, adults marry 3 years old girls. That's even a moron that has never even went to a synagogue knows that cannot be true. Even a person that's literally a person that doesn't know what Shabbat is, doesn't know anything. He knows that there are Jewish people, there are Christian people, there are all types of people in the world. He knows that there is no civilization on planet Earth that's a civilized, people throughout all of history, that's simply where you have adults marrying infants. Of course, there's always sick people, but it's never something that a civilized nation does. Because if this was something that the Gemara actually said, where grown men marry 3-year-old kids, 2-year-old kids, then guess what? You'd see a bunch of this happening all over the streets. But guess what? You don't see it. Why don't you see it? Because it doesn't exist. But since people are too busy being anti-Semitic and ignorant and simply dumb, then this is what they portray to people. Say, oh, look over there. It says 3-year-old and it says an act of intimacy. Oh, that must mean that this is what happens. It's literally, you have to rethink your whole life. Your whole life has to be rethought when you make such foolish mistakes, because you're simply putting yourself in a situation where you are making assumptions about an entire people, an entire Torah, an entire creation, based on something that, you heard some non-Jew usually say. Like, something's wrong with you. You're either completely crazy, or you are, like a gullible to the point where you're borderline crazy. Because to believe such a thing, it's just like you have to use your common sense at some point. At common sense, you see that the Jewish people, for the last 3,334 years, have committed themselves to the Torah. Okay, we still keep the same Torah that we got at Mount Sinai. Surely there are some of us that fall off and stop observing, but generally speaking, our people have been keeping the same Torah for 3,334 years. Have you ever seen any books written, anything, films made, anything throughout history, articles written, where you see an entire group of Jewish people marrying little infants? Have you ever seen such a thing? Have you ever heard of such a thing? Is there such a thing ever existed in history? Now, you have seen us keep the kosher laws. Why? Because it's in our Torah. You have seen us keep the holidays. Why? Because it's in our Torah. You have seen us have the chuppah, the Jewish ceremony for marriage. Why? Because that's in our Torah. You have seen us, do all types of things in accordance to our Torah. Why? Because we follow the Torah. So if what you said is in the Torah also, how come you don't ever see it throughout all of history? You never seen a grown man marry a 3-year-old person. How come? Why don't you see it? So this is again an act of lunacy that is highlighting the ignorance of the generation. And it simply needs to be addressed once and for all to make people understand that at some point you're not going to be prosecuted by God simply for mistakes. At some point you're going to be prosecuted by God simply for your elective stupidity. Your elective stupidity. You chose to be stupid because you chose simply to believe something that doesn't even make common sense to any normal human being. No normal human being would believe such a thing. So how can you think that an entire people that is considered holy according to all other religions has such a thing? How can you bring yourself to think such stupidity and not literally be so ashamed you want to bury yourself and literally in some cemetery and never come out? How do you live with yourself with such stupidity running in your house? Do you have a brain or cockroaches in your head? How does somebody live? How do you put your pants on? How do you survive an entire day with such high level of stupidity without somebody instituting you and putting you into an insane asylum? How could that be that such people walk around earth and actually believe that they're civilized with such stupid beliefs? It's mind-boggling to me. Does Judaism have different laws from other places? Absolutely, but that's intentional. That's intentional. But to say such a thing, this is no different than the blood libels where the Gentiles say that we eat matzah on Pesach that has blood in it. Like, obviously anyone that's normal today knows that that is the second highest level of stupidity in history. The first one being today. Well, this 3-year-old thing. The second highest level in history is literally when they thought that we put blood of people in the matzah. And they literally murdered countless Jews because of this false belief. Now, who didn't believe it? Anyone with common sense. Anyone with more common sense than hatred in their heart didn't believe such a thing. Why? Because it doesn't make sense. Why would we eat people? Why would we, it's just such a dumb thing to think. But again, this is not 500 years ago. This was, as you can see, Rabotai, live today. People are saying this on the internet, that they heard from someone somewhere that Jewish people marry 3-year-olds. Where do you see this in society? Where? Where have you seen in history Jewish people marrying 3-year-olds? Where do you see this? Oh, I didn't see it, but it's written. Well, everything else that's written we do. So how come we don't do this? How come we never did this? Because that's not what it's written. Go read it and see. It doesn't say that. And stop being such a fool in public. You're embarrassing yourself to the point where you're bringing shame on yourself, your people, your family, and literally the world of Gentiles. You're making Gentiles look stupid. And I know plenty of non-Jews that are very bright in a lot of different ways. Not just archaeology and mathematics, very bright in Torah. You're literally making Gentiles look so stupid they shouldn't be part of the civilized world. What is wrong with you to say such a thing? Go study. Look at the book before you quote it. An act of stupidity that's elective is inexcusable. You literally made 8 billion people look stupid. You should be ashamed of yourself for making such a dumb statement without qualifying it, without checking it, without looking anything. Literally, you should be ashamed of yourself for such dumb things that you say without even checking it. You're going to make a public statement, by all means, make whatever you say. Freedom of speech, they say. But at the very least, say something that makes sense. Say some words of wisdom. Say the words that make common sense. Don't just quote some page that you don't even know what it means and then say this is what it says. It's literally, all of you can go. You could type on the internet, Sanhedrin 55b, like what he said. Okay, go, Sanhedrin. Go there. Go see what it says. Go. How about this? You don't even have to go to the book. Go to every Jewish community. Find me one couple that's an adult with a 3-year-old. I'll give you $1 million, cash. Who thinks like this? This is what the world has come to. They believe memes. That's how people learn today. They believe memes and blank statements. Read, Ribono Shel Olam, read. You have eyes to read. And if you can't see, you have ears to hear. Don't make such stupid statement. Make it literally billions of people look stupid. Shame on you for being so foolish to make an entire people look stupid just for the sake of expressing hatred towards a people you don't know. For what? What do you gain out of it? Let's move on.